I think Karen's kind of like a dog that's got a bone. She's just not gonna let go until she can affect some sort of change, until something happens. So clearly by episode 5 she hasn't solved it yet.
Right.
So yeah, she's determined for sure.
Oh, this is a very dark series, but characters like Foggy especially add a little bit of levity to the situation. Do you enjoy playing that, or would you rather him have a lot more darkness?
No, I do enjoy playing that. And I think Foggy does have some things going on inside that he's also wrestling with. But yeah, no, it's a fun character, and this show in particular was nice because he wasn't just that. When you're just that comic relief or whatever, it can be kind of boring to play that same thing over and over again. But they brought a lot of depth to all these characters in this show, and so it was a fun character to play.
What is the feeling of knowing that people are going to have the option to watch the entire show in one day? I mean, is that the ideal way to enjoy it, in your way, or you should take a break?
Well, for me personally, yes, because I have no patience whatsoever. But that's just my own personal, I don't know. What about you?
I mean, I think you should stop to eat and use the bathroom. No.
Or get Depends.
Or whatever you gotta do. I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of cool that you can pick. Also, if you don't have time right now, watch it in a couple months, all the way through. I don't know. We were talking the other day with Charlie, he's like, I'm halfway through an episode of House of Cards, that's kind of cool that you can kind of come in and out of it. It's just 13 hours of content that doesn't necessarily have to break at any point.
Right.
Can you talk about the relationship between the chemistry between Karen and Foggy and Matt, and then working with Charlie, and how does that sort of work between the three of you guys, finding these characters and their relationship?
Sure. Well, I mean, we all hit it off pretty quick,
yeah.
I think.
I think a lot of it was luck, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because we just sort of, I don't know, we all got along really.
Well, I know you always come to it and you're always like, oh my God, please be nice people, be supportive, nice people, and then when it turns out that
I'm sure you've had the same experience,
yeah.
Everyone has, where you meet someone and you're like, what planet are they living on? And do I really have to work with them for the next 6 months? But this one was lucky. We really just, I don't think any of us had a lot of time to really get to know each other that well, but and also they did a good job with the writing and the characters, and these characters.
But an interesting thing, I think it's my fault, but we had to start with they had to start shooting the second episode mostly first before we shot the first episode. I think it was because I was still coming from True Blood, and so there was a couple days overlap. And in a way, I think that really helped because we really started in the thick of things where the relationships are established and we could just jump in, so that when we got back to the first episode, there's none of those scenes of you should go first. You were kind of already settled in a little bit.
Yeah, it's true.
And when you guys get the roles, does Marvel send you a Daredevil omnibus of comic books pages that you go through to kind of look for clues for your character, or do you guys just stick to Daredevil scripts as opposed to, combing the comic book lore for clues?
They didn't send me anything, did they send me anything?
Well, I requested, they have what's it called? They have the online Marvel app where you can sort of access all that
digital
stuff. So
comics.
the digital comics. So they gave me a link to that, so I could go back and read whatever I wanted. It was only for a year. I'll have to pay for it from now on. But that was very helpful.
Does that help? Does it help inform your character?
For me, it did. Not because I'm trying to copy something that we did in the comic books, but I did want to make sure that she was sort of familiar and unique at the same time. How can she feel like the Karen Page that the fans have come to know, but can I still surprise them? And in order to do that, I had to have some sense of where she came from.
Now, Deborah, earlier you were talking about how, you're just coming off of True Blood, and, when you knew that was coming to an end, and you'd obviously been on that for almost the entire series, I think, was another long-form TV series something that you were looking for, or did this sort of just happen to come up, or what was that transition like?
Yeah, sort of just happened to come up, but it gave me pause for a second, not because there's anything wrong with doing a series, but 7 years is a long time to be working on one project, and it does take out a lot of your time from being able to do other things like theater or film. And but as soon as I spoke with Jeff Loeb about what their plans were for Karen, I sort of had to do it. It was just kind of too cool to pass up. And I was a little sad about leaving Jessica behind and those characters in that world. It is a grieving process. I was her for 7 years, and so I had hopes and dreams for her that are as strong as I have for myself. And letting that go was hard. I'm stupid. I'm going off on a tangent, but like, Bill Compton was my dad, and like I'll never see him again, and that was hard. So I was really glad actually to go straight to something where I could immediately have best friends and a father figure in characters, and it was a nice transition, sort of helped me through it.
By the same token, though, would you argue for even though they're long-form series, they're also short long-form series, because True Blood is like, what, was 10 episodes a season or something like that?
Yeah, 10
and this
to
is
12.
and this is 13, as opposed to a network series where you're looking at 22 episodes. Is it more, and these have like, each season of True Blood was like sort of one complete story, and
Right.
this, we haven't seen the whole thing, but
That's
this
the
season,
idea,
the idea,
yeah.
is that more satisfying in that sense to do these in these more compact type of television programs?
I think different stories are going to lend themselves to different storytelling tactics. So I think that's really the goal, is how do you match up the story with the best way to tell it. And I do think that at least in these two cases, that True Blood and certainly Daredevil really suit this form of storytelling, especially since if you look at comic books, this is kind of the way these stories have always been presented to us, in these kind of installments of individual issues that form one story that's part of an even larger story. So it kind of works in the same way.
Deborah, you had mentioned the feeling of loss you had when True Blood was over and moving on to something new. Now, Karen, of course, loses her original job and is going to something new. Did that inform your performance at all in Daredevil?
Sure. She loses everything, not just like physically, like job or things like literal things, but she was in a home where she thought she trusted people and she thought she was doing good work, and it turns out it's the opposite, and that she was part of a machine that was corrupted, and now people are trying to kill her. It was that huge a betrayal. And I think that's a particularly difficult thing to move past, and something that I didn't experience from True Blood. Nobody tried to kill me after that. So it was good, because the harder the fall was on that side of it, the more she needs Matt and Foggy to be that surrogate family, that the people she can trust. And I like that it takes her a little time to trust them. Like she doesn't hand everything all over right away. They have to sort of prove that they're trustworthy, because she's suffered a blow.
Also on a little bit of kind of a different track. Right now, obviously, gender inequalities, what are the things that's really being brought to the public's attention, especially throughout Hollywood and in the entertainment industry. You play strong female characters. I mean, you've had that privilege. It's wonderful. Now, is that something that you actually seek out, or are you starting to see more roles open up that are actually these strong female characters?
It's probably both. I mean, one, I won't do a role that I feel is limiting to women.
Yeah, awesome.
But on the other hand, also sometimes some roles have the potential to be really great. You just have to kind of be like, can I try this thing? And it's not that they're against that. It's just that maybe whoever was working on it hadn't quite thought of it that way. So yeah, I mean, I've had the privilege to work on some really interesting, women, and particularly with Jessica, from like girl to woman, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I mean, this, when I was first thinking about doing this, I was definitely like, oh God, is it just the girl, And again, after talking to Jeff, I knew there was something more there. And anything that I threw at them, anything where I was like, maybe it'd be cool if this doesn't scare her. Maybe it kind of excites her a little bit, and they were really open to things like that.
And for both of you, you're definitely part of like this team now. I would say that Foggy's kind of like this public face, and you're almost kind of like a researcher because your character story kind of mirrors a lot of like stuff that's happening in the real life with people who find out information that is really sensitive. What was it like to sort of flesh out these characters and make them, you know, a component to this team and sort of like their traits? And
I just talked.
It was a pleasure. I mean,
To balance each
you know,
other.
the playing to work with this group of people, you know, from top to bottom. You know, not just the other actors, but everyone on the crew was an incredible experience. You know, it probably isn't the answer that you want to hear, but like, honestly, I just try not to get fired. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm doing, man. I'm just like, you know, there's not a lot of. You know, I don't have a lot coming in, you know what I mean? I sort of try to do whatever I can with what's presented to me, you know what I mean? And, yeah, I just try not to get fired.
I guess for Karen, I thought a little bit about this idea of like the whistleblower. Like we're in this weird world right now where that's kind of happening here and there. You keep hearing stories and it's sort of topical at the moment. And the kind of the struggle of that. I mean, are you really going to take down people who you thought were your friends, but then they betrayed you? And that's a very delicate, scary place to be.